If you've ever wanted to make trap soul and R&B chords, here's a simple trick to get you started.
5, 2, 1.
Also, stick around to the end of the video for a free gift that will help you create even more lush R&B and trap soul chords. So right now we're in FL Studio's piano roll, and all I did was just load up FL keys and went to the Rhodes preset. So this is what this sounds like. So most people will show you for trap soul and R&B chords, they'll show you 4-note chords, and that's cool. But what I'm about to show you is something that I call the 2-chord trick. And basically all we're doing is just taking 2 triads and combining them together. And what this does, it develops a very lush chord sound compared to just using a simple 4-note chord. So now we have more use of the keyboard range. And because we're using a wider range of frequencies, it tends to make the chords just sound a lot more open and more inviting for adding other sounds and other instruments onto those chords. So first, I'll show you what people would show you for a simple 4-note chord in trap soul. So this is a typical trap soul chord right here. But what I'm going to do is show you how to combine 2 chords to actually recreate this same exact chord, but we'll get a different sound. So all I'm going to do is just play this. So with your right hand, you would be playing this simple triad up top. And then with your left hand, you would be playing this triad on bottom. So there's a really simple formula how I came up with these 2 chords. If you notice these notes that I'm highlighting right here, they're actually the same exact notes as each other. The only notes that are different are the very top note and the very bottom note of these 2 chords. So all I'm doing is playing a simple 3-note chord on top, and I'm taking those 2 bottom notes and using those notes as the 2 top notes for the bottom chord. So most of you already know the rule for simple triads. All you're doing is just skipping every other note in the scale. So that's how we come up with this top note and this bottom note. To make this easier for you, I'm going to go to scale highlighters, and we're playing in E minor. So now we have all the notes in the scale highlighted. So you'll see that this triad on top is just every other note in the scale. It's just a simple 3-note triad. And then we're taking these 2 notes. We just shift click, drag that over and drag it back over. And then we're going to hit Control and down. And now we just move that down an octave. So that creates the beginning of our bottom chord. And then we're just going to continue making this chord by skipping a note down here and then adding a note here. And you'll notice that all of these notes are the same exact notes as these. B and B, G and G, E and E, G and G, E and E, C and C. So really these 2 notes are the same notes as the bottom of the top chord and the top of the bottom chord. And this note goes with our top chord, and then this note goes with our bottom chord. So let's just listen to the difference. So it's the same exact chord, but with this open voicing, you just have a lot more lushness with that chord. Let's make a whole nother one from scratch. So let me go with this one right here. Here's another 3-note chord. And then I'm going to throw a chord on bottom. Once again, it's just going to consist of these 2 notes right here, the 2 bottom notes of the top chord. Drag that back over, Control down, and I'm just going to continue on with this chord, skipping the next note in the scale and then adding the next note in the scale. And now we have another lush trap soul R&B chord. So here's the first chord that we made, and here's the second. And let's just listen to what those sound like in progression. Really quick before we get into the next part of the video, if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, please show your support by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell so that you get instantly notified whenever I drop a new video. It really helps the channel grow, and it lets me know that you want more content like this. Thank you for your support. So let's go ahead and make another one. So I'm going to take this chord right here, and I'm gonna do the same exact trick. I'm gonna take the 2 bottom notes, play those in my bottom chord, and then I'm gonna skip a note in the scale and then add in the next note in the scale. And for good measure, let's make this a 4-chord progression. So I'm just gonna add in another triad here. Use the 2 bottom notes to create the top notes in the chord, and skip a note in the scale, and then add the next note in the scale. And let's take a listen to this progression. So let's compare that to what it would sound like if we were just using your basic 4-note chord instead. So you can hear there's just a lot more to it, even though they're the same exact notes. It's something that I use 100% of the time whenever I'm making R&B or trap soul. Instead of using basic 4-note chords, I just take a triad and then build the additional notes from the 2 bottom notes of that first triad, and then add an additional note to the bottom of that triad. You would be recreating these exact type of chords right here. One thing that you want to keep in mind is that every scale has 1 dissonant chord, so there will be 1 chord in the scale that it won't really work for. And when you come across that, what I recommend doing is just, instead of following this formula, just play the top chord backwards on the bottom chord. So let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. Let me play you the dissonant chord in the E minor scale. You could kind of hear how nasty that is. With this chord, we're still following that same formula. The 2 bottom notes become the 2 top notes of the bottom chord, but instead of skipping a note and adding in the next note in the scale, what we're going to do instead is just drop this down an additional note in the scale. Then you'll end up with the same exact chord, just a little backwards. So all we really did was just move this E to the bottom of the chord. So now let's take a listen to that. So anytime you run into a chord where you feel like that double chord trick doesn't really work, just go ahead and drop that bottom note an additional note in the scale. This should also give you some ideas for other type of chord voicings that you could come up with. So we're just doing this with your basic triads where you skip every other note in the scale. If you know anything about inversions, which is basically still using the same notes in the chord, for a beginner, the easiest way to do that is just create your simple 3-note chords by skipping every other note, and then just move the bottom note up an octave or the top note down an octave, and you'll get your inversions from that. As a thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video, I want to give you a free MIDI pack that contains all of the MIDI that I've showed you here today. But not just that, I've also included additional MIDI chord progressions to help you get started. To get the MIDI pack, all you have to do is just follow me on Instagram and send me a DM saying that you want the Lush Chord MIDI pack. I'll DM you back that same day with the link to the download. And of course, if you already follow me on Instagram, all you have to do is just DM me. If you don't have Instagram, just go ahead and make a free account, DM me, and you could delete it afterwards. But I recommend that you actually hold on to the account, because I'm going to be giving out a lot of free stuff down the line. So most of it will be through DMs or through my mailing list. If you haven't signed up for my mailing list, click on my free FL Studio template link down below and watch that video, and you'll actually learn how I use this free FL Studio template that I've given you guys, and you'll be able to sign up for my mailing list, where I also give out a bunch of free stuff as well. Thanks again for your support. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you stay instantly updated whenever I drop a new video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.